Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday.
Nothing beats a Jet2 Wales holiday. And if you act now, you too can enjoy an all-expense-paid taxpayer-funded holiday aboard a $500 million yacht flown in by private jet. Don't wait. Book your next Wales Jet2 holiday now.
With Jet2 Holidays.
Well, folks, it looks like William and Kate are off again on yet another luxury vacation. This time they are cruising the Greek Isles on board a $500 million yacht owned by a ruling member of the Abu Dhabi royal family, where Mr. Earthshot himself flew the entire Middleton clan on a private jet to cruise the sunny isles of Kefalonia. The juxtaposition couldn't be more poignant. While William and Kate enjoy yet another luxury vacation, there's Harry, the non-working royal, walking through minefields and raising awareness about a problem highlighted by his mother decades ago. In other words, doing real service. It's no wonder the British public is finally waking up to the reality that they are being scammed. And folks, don't try to look for this story anywhere in the British press. You won't find anything. In their never-ending sycophancy, the British press continues to bamboozle the public about how hard-working the Waleses are. Here's the press getting tongue-tied trying to defend William.
Harry has done more work than William ever, and it's just the press who hasn't reported.
Claudia, quickly, can you reply to this?
No, it's rubbish, Beth. Sorry, I don't buy it.
William's lazy.
Hang on, Irene, hang on.
William's not lazy. It's absolutely. He works so hard. He was, he's there taking over a role which he didn't choose. He's now in training to take over from Charles when Charles passes.
Folks, according to her, William works so hard. He's in training, It's just so hard for him. And as for Kate, whenever I find myself feeling sympathy for her, I read a headline like this, and it just makes my blood boil. Kate on holiday in the Greek Isles, recovering from cancer. Once again, the cancer card is being used. After she told us she was cancer-free or in remission or whatever she said. So which is it, Kate? Do you have cancer or not? And did you ever even have it at all? Because a cancer fraud will never be forgiven. And she knows this, and she is stuck with it. So whenever she finds it convenient, she will use it to extract maximum sympathy from an increasingly skeptical public. Of course, you have the die-hard fans and Rhoda apologists who will always justify all the never-ending revolving doors of lies and excuses of these two. But the most egregious thing about all this, at least for me, is the very real implication that a disease as nasty and insidious and heartbreaking as cancer is constantly being trotted out to explain away their indolence. Kate does not want to do anything. She doesn't want to work. She does not want to do interviews where she's going to say something and then people are going to realize that she doesn't know what she's talking about. She does not want to live a life of service. What she wants is to be a woman of leisure, a kept woman like her sister Pippa or Rose Hambury. Remember a few weeks ago when it was reported that both her and William met with Melinda Gates for a possible collaboration with Kate's early years project with no photographs? Ask yourself, folks, how come you haven't heard anything more about that? Here's what probably happened. Kate must not even have remembered that she was scheduled to meet with Gates that day. These things are scheduled far in advance. Melinda Gates didn't just happen to be walking by Windsor Castle one day and decided to pop in. I think Kate doesn't even bother to look at her calendar. That's why if you look up her engagements on the royal family website, it always says the same thing. No results found. Compare that to Anne or Charles. It's no wonder throughout the years she's gone through an army of private secretaries who didn't last very long. I think she probably slept late that day, didn't want to be bothered to get up to go meet Melinda Gates, and maybe sent a representative. I doubt William was there too. They probably both sent reps, then instructed the press to report that a secret meeting had taken place. Really, a secret meeting. Why the secret? Why no photographs? Why no interviews from Gates herself? And why no follow-ups about any new collaborative projects between the Royal Foundation and Melinda Gates's foundation? The private nature of the discussion meant the specific purpose of their meeting has not been disclosed. But why is it so private? We're talking about, why does everything have to be so private with these people? It goes on to say, the American Philanthropists Organization focuses specifically on advancing opportunities for women, though how this might align with the Royal Foundation's objectives remains unclear. Now, folks, any self-respecting nonprofit would do headstands and cartwheels if Melinda Gates, a wealthy philanthropist, wanted to meet with and possibly collaborate with them. But not the lazy Waleses who don't really care about the organizations they start or the patronages they belong to. For them, service is nothing more than a performative costume wearing and window dressing in between holidays to create the illusion that they are not just wealthy and privileged taxpayer-funded leeches, but that they are giving back. The truth is, their organizations have no bark, no bite, and no teeth at all. They're just a facade. Why hasn't Melinda Gates been interviewed by the press about this so-called meeting that took place? Because Melinda Gates herself now realizes that they are posers. You won't be getting any interviews from her. She'll keep that quiet. Kate would rather spend all day in the gym or getting spa treatments before jetting off to one holiday after another. Because the truth is, the picture of Kate that the British press presents to the public is completely opposite from who she really is behind the curtains. I suspect that in reality, Kate is a mess. She is so emotionally stunted due to years of being psychologically dependent on her mother, constantly trying to live up to the pressure of her mother's ambitions, that she never really had a chance to simply be an adult. Her entire life has been one big plan from before she was even born. Kate is suffering from severe executive dysfunction, from which her eating disorder is a symptom. And nobody knows it more than this woman, Natasha Archer. Archer has seen a weeping Kate when William was off having his affairs, an angry Kate, probably a drunk Kate, and who knows, maybe even a drugged up Kate. Natasha knows all about the bulimia. She maybe even had to hold her hair back a few times. Natasha spent 15 years in service to pieces of a broken woman. And here's what I think happened. When William inherited the Duchy of Cornwall, he also inherited all the money, which included the payroll for Kate's staff. And I think he slashed her budget to such an extent that Kate was barely able to keep up as she once had when she was under the Queen's protection. Charles, who was far more generous with Kate's allowance than his son, was no longer her financial benefactor. I came across an old story the other day that mentioned among Kate's permanent entourage was a hairstylist who was being paid £300 a day, with Charles footing the bill. Now, prior to the great Middleton mishap of 2023, Kate was often criticized by the Queen for spending lavishly on a budget provided to her by the then Prince of Wales, her father-in-law. But when the Queen died and William inherited the Duchy of Cornwall, he also inherited power over the purse. William was now in control of a $1 billion portfolio. Suddenly, Charles was paying William rent to remain at Highgrove, and we'll talk about Highgrove in another video. And William became the financial overlord of his own wife. Kate's husband became her new employer, and I think that's when he put the brakes on her spending. Now, I wonder if you recall right before Kate reemerged at Trooping the Color last year, when this piece came out about Natasha wearing a watch similar to Kate's. I would be willing to wager that this was Kate's watch. By now, Kate had been gone for close to 6 months. The press claimed that Archer had gotten a promotion to senior executive of whatever. And oh, here she is wearing Kate's watch. I think this was Kate begging her not to go and probably trying to bribe her with her watch as security for future payments. In other words, I think Kate was stiffing Natasha. Fast forward to January, the press is still telling lies about secret cancer treatments at hospitals where the staff looks incredulous. And Natasha is like, here we go again. Here I am, covering for her lies, dealing with this messy marriage, and for no pay. The final straw came when she learned that rather than paying her what she was owed, she discovered that Kate was set to go on yet another luxury vacation. I think she had enough, and that's when she quit. And this time, no amount of lofty-sounding job titles or fancy watches would change her mind. And to register her annoyance, she unprivated her Instagram account. Now, why would she do that? Why didn't she unfollow the accounts in question before switching her own account from private to public? This was no accident. This was personal. This was payback. And either Kate or Carol, who knows, in their pathetic attempt to clap back, had the lackeys in the British press publish this truly pathetic drivel about Natasha being behind the brothers' rift and reframing the mass unfollowing as a snub to Meghan. Give me a break. I think she probably owed her money for months. And with Charles no longer funding her extravagant lifestyle and army of servants, Kate had to turn to William, who by now had gone sour on her. It was no longer like the early days of their courtship when he was eager to impress his supposedly wealthy fiancée, where he used his mother's inheritance to finance the Middleton's $15 million Buckleberry estate. Not too bright, that William. Now, William, his eyes wide open, feeling humiliated by her parents' financial disgrace, decided the best way to punish Kate would be to severely limit her budget. William is starving Kate financially. And speaking of starving, Kate's Day 2 appearance at Wimbledon was so alarming that the public could not help but take notice. The internet lit up with comments about her shocking thinness. And it will be interesting to see in the coming days how the Wales' latest secret holiday will play out. Will the press continue to pretend it never happened, hoping the public forgets? And to whom will the press show its allegiance? So that's all for today, folks. I'm going to do another video about Highgrove and the royals' general stinginess. Not when it comes to themselves, of course. So anyway, that's all for today, folks. Be sure to leave your comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'd like to thank those of you who left me a super thanks in the last video. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll catch you all in the next one.